Hi, welcome on workshop. As you know, last few weeks we speak about how God speaks to men, how can we hear God, and this Sunday Dasha was speaking about how can we actually hear God in our lives. So in last 2 weeks we spoke about underestimated ways how God speaks to us, or about dreams, how God is using dreams, or actually that most of the dreams are the soul dreams. And we will speak about God's dreams again in the future. But today we speak about how is God speaking to us, or in better way, how can we hear Him? And maybe you already pray, maybe you read the Bible, you are coming to workshops, you come to the celebrations, and you do everything that is right and correct, and still you might have a feeling that God is not speaking to you. So let us discuss it today and speak about it. And let us take just a brief look at the story of God and man, and how God spoke to the man and to the people throughout history. So at the beginning, God spoke directly to Adam, He spoke directly to Eve, and both of them, they spoke directly to God. So it was in the garden, but afterwards or later they sinned, and there became sin as separation and hindrance in between man and God. And God decided that since He is not able to talk to Adam and Eve and to the people directly, that He will use mediators. So He started using prophets as mediators who were His messengers, and they were bringing God's message to the people. It happened in the history that after this period of prophets, there was 400 years gap, and God was not speaking to any man. So it was a long time of silence, and it was for one specific reason. God had something specifically new and great in His mind and in His heart, and He started to do new things, which is described in Joel, Prophet Joel, and it's described again in Acts 2, when he speaks about that there will be later days or end days, the end of time, when God will pour out His Spirit and people will hear Him, that young people will have dreams and old people will have visions, and that we will hear Him, everybody. There will be no mediators in between God and man, that man will be able to again to hear God. So God sent His Son, and Jesus is dying on the cross, opening the gate, and in the minute Jesus is dying, in same minute the veil in the temple that was separating man from the sanctuary, from the place where he could meet God personally, the veil was torn apart from top to bottom. And in this, it's a symbol. It's a symbol that God is opening way directly to Him. We can come to Him today because of Jesus, and we have direct access to God, and we can hear Him directly and personally. So how is God speaking to us, or better, how can we hear Him? There are actually 3 simple ways how we can hear Him. Of course, when we speak about hearing, there is natural ears, and God can speak with audible voice, and we can see it in Samuel, that God spoke to him with audible voice. Even the voice woke up the boy Samuel. But this happens just maybe once or twice in your life, or maybe even you don't hear any audible voice of God. But there is another voice mentioned in the Bible, and it's a small and gentle voice that is speaking in our spirit. God is speaking to our spirit, to our hearts, and we get an impression, and we feel like we have heard Him, and we are supposed to act on this voice. The second way how we can hear God is through vision. We can have visions. We can see when we are praying, or when we are reading Bible, or when we are with the Lord, or even we actually are not specifically concentrated on God. God can show us picture or even kind of story or movie, and we can see movie in our imagination, and it might be that it's God speaking to you and me. So it's described with the book, in the book of Acts, when Stephen is stoned to death. Paul is assisting to his stoning to the death, and Stephen is dying, and he is looking at heaven, and he says, I see Jesus, I see Son of Man sitting on the right hand of God. And he had right vision directly there, so he could see where he is going. And that was God speaking to him through vision. Third way is how we hear God is through feeling. There are kind of God's strong emotions or intensive persuasion. You are intensively persuaded and you can't avoid it, and you recognize it's God's persuasion, it's God's push in your life, and you want and need and have to follow it. There are some barriers why we don't hear God. Sin might be one of them, when we don't do what we are told by God to do, or mental block, or feeling of inferiority. I don't deserve God, that God would speak to me, or what would people think if I hear God and do what He is telling me. Or experiences, we might have experienced God never spoke to me, God never spoke to my friends, God never spoke to my family, so God will never spoke to me. And there are different barriers that can hinder us from hearing God's voice. So questions for today or for tonight is, how is God speaking to you personally most often? Is He using hearing in your life, or vision, or feelings? And can you recall some situations when God is speaking to you? In case you have feeling that God is not speaking to you, or in better way, you think that you don't hear Him, is there any hindrance? Can you identify a hindrance that is preventing you from hearing Him? Is it sin, mental hindrance, fear, feelings of inferiority, experiences, or what would people think, or any other barrier? And last question, what can you do practically to hear better God's voice? So I wish you nice workshop and enjoy it, and see you. Bye bye.